Today is Monday, April 8th. Today's the first nice day we've had in a long time. Hopefully this cold, wet weather is done. I just delivered the last of these big heavy bales this morning. There was like 26 left, so I took them to a guy I take hay to. The 966 also has a axle seal leak on this axle. Last year, we had one on that side. We got that fixed, but now this one is starting to act up. So we're gonna have to get that fixed at some point. Don't know if I mentioned it, but this tractor's also got a heck of a leak going on under here. We've got it leaking right out of the split here, and then it's kind of trickling down and it's leaking out of here, and it's just making a mess here. So that's gonna have to get split at some point. Bought a load of grass hay Friday at auction, got a really good deal on this stuff, and this is absolutely gorgeous looking hay. The camera just does not do it justice. It's that time of year where weather's warming up. We're gonna be getting in the field here soon. The hay is looking really nice. This is down here along the waterway, so the orchard grass always grows real tall and thick down in here. With this being first cutting, there's normally a lot more grass in here than alfalfa, but the alfalfa is coming up and it's looking pretty good. There's a couple weeds in here, but they'll get choked out here soon. The old stands here are slowly dying off. It's taking its good old time, but they're dying little by little. I just got the no-till drill lined up for next week. Probably could have done it this week, but it's just the stuff isn't as dead as I would like it to be, so I scheduled it for next week, and hopefully by then this stuff will be crispy and brown. Just walk down. You just walk around. Stop complaining. It's right here. I am running really low on hay. I've got about a quarter of a big bale left, and I've got a few, maybe one big bale worth of small bales up in the barn that's fit for steers. Other than that, I'm about out, so I need to find some hay. Normally every year we have some carryover, you know, as far as our hay supply. We'll have like a bale or a couple big bales left, but this year we fed through a lot. Fortunately, it is April 8th today, so we don't have long until we turn them out to pasture, but we're still gonna need to get a few big bales in order to finish out this spring here and have some carryover into next year. Because it's nice to have a little bit of carryover, then you're not as stressed on getting hay throughout the summer. So we have some ground this year that we're kind of designating towards making steer hay. At least first cutting is probably gonna end up being steer hay. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, well, if I can make it good enough for horses, or at least cheap horse hay or goat feed or something, I kind of want to do that and sell it rather than making it for steers, because at least right now I can get steer hay for dirt cheap, and it might still make more sense to make all of my existing hay ground into small bales to sell rather than feeding it to my steers, because steers will eat pretty much about anything. And if I can sell goat hay for $6 a bale, which, you know, that'll come out to $300 a ton, and then I buy steer hay for $200 a ton, I think that makes more sense than trying to make small bales and steer hay. Got a new toy the other day. Boy, this thing sure beats the old gator that we had. Actually, we still have it, but man, it's a piece of junk. If you go back a video or two, click the link up here, you will see that I kind of broke the gator. Actually, I guess it was a collective effort of all of us, because we kind of neglected to ever check the oil on that thing and kind of ran it out of oil. I'm not kidding. We ran it out of oil, and then we ended up putting oil in it and cranking it for a little bit, and eventually it actually freed up, and it still is running to this day. Except the problem with it is in the process of that, the rings have pretty much went bye-bye and have left the chat, has an insane amount of blow-by and zero power. So we knew that thing was on the last leg, and so we did some looking around and found this on Marketplace. And it's a nice little thing. It's a Kawasaki Mule SX. It's a 400, I think. It's 4-wheel drive. I honestly like the blue. I think it's pretty sharp, and it's different than all of this stuff. My dad wanted red to match the IH, but I kind of like the blue. I think it's pretty sharp. And yeah, it's definitely an upgrade to our Gator. It's got 4-wheel drive, high-low. Even though it's only a 400, it definitely is a lot better than the Gator, a lot more pep. And it's gonna be a nice machine for doing things like this job right here. I got a bunch of hay back in there that needs to be taken out to the steers, so now I'm just gonna use this probably once a day, take a few bales out and feed the steers that way. That Gator was such a pain in the butt. It was slow, sluggish, no power, no 4-wheel drive, and it has like 2,500 hours on it. But we knew it was on its last leg for a while. We've actually kind of purposely been running it into the dirt because we needed an excuse to get something new. Fast forward an hour. Sorry you can't see me, but I just picked up a load of straw here that I gotta take to auction in the morning. And it's really hard to talk to the camera and back into the barn at the same time. So hang on a second. Alrighty, we made it. 2023 wheat straw. And gonna take this to auction tomorrow morning. Boy, is it a beautiful night out. It's nice enough out here. Figured I could do a little crop scouting quick. This spot of the field is always a little bit thinner than the majority of the field over there. Reason being is when it was planted, there was not as much alfalfa in the mix. As you can tell, if you look right in there, there's a lot of alfalfa. And then you come over here, see there's a lot less alfalfa in this spot. That alfalfa actually fixates nitrogen in the soil, so it feeds the grass. But with there being a lot less alfalfa in this spot, it just isn't feeding the grass as much. So that's why I'm always kind of looking at this spot. But it seems that the manure that I spread and the potash that we spread is actually helping this out quite a bit, and it's looking really nice. Grass is looking nice and green. Now here's a spot where it's struggling. You can see much thinner. There just isn't much going on in here, and it's a thin spot. But the rest of the field seems to be doing a-okay, and we should be all right this year. Last year it really struggled early on. First cutting was pretty thin, and we ended up spreading some nitrogen on there actually after first cutting, and that actually helped it bounce back big time, and it helped it throughout the rest of the season. And I'm thinking that with the manure that we spread and the nitrogen from last summer, there's still kind of some leftover in there, so we might still spread some nitrogen after first cutting in that spot. It'll be a light dose, but you know, it might not be a bad idea to do that there. Plus I have some other grass stands that I'm probably going to put a light dose of nitrogen on anyway, so if I do that, I might as well spread a little bit in this spot too. So that'll be kind of the plan. That's not supposed to be like that. You're telling me this thing has sat here all winter and it just decided to tip back? No, something's wrong here. Something's fishy. I'm really confused how this happened, because this happened one time before when it was sitting outside when we had like just bought it. But that's also because it was sitting on uneven ground. This is sitting flat in here, and it's been sitting here for a while. So I'm gonna try to flip this thing back, and I don't know if this is gonna work by hand. Last time I had to use the AGCO, and I had to put the bucket down on it. So there's a hydraulic cylinder on here, this right here. And when I unhook it, what I do is I always suck that cylinder in, which tips this whole thing forward, right? And I do that so that it doesn't have a bunch of weight leaning back on it. As you can see, if you see how it's sitting forward like that? Well, that's how it normally sits when that cylinder is sucked in, and I don't have to jack it down that low. But for whatever reason, this cylinder must have pushed out, don't know how, and it forced it backwards. So don't know why it did that. Fortunately, with these tethers, when that happens, these tines, they're just big springs, so it pushed down on those tines, and you can see there's no damage to them. So the tines aren't damaged, and the tines caught it before it really smacked that, and it didn't hit the disc bind at all. So could have been a lot worse, but just a little confused why that happened. Quick little agronomy tip thing here. If we take a look at this alfalfa, you see we got some holes in there, and that is bug damage. I actually don't know what bug it is, whether it's the weevil, which we've had a lot of problems with, or the leafhopper, and there's a couple other bugs as well. But the larva loves to eat and just feed off of alfalfa. Last year we had really bad weevil problem. It probably ate about 50% of the alfalfa that was out there. So we ended up mowing that stand a lot earlier than we really wanted to. We mowed it, I think, on May 15th. And that was, you know, a good week and a half, 2 weeks before a lot of other guys really started making hay. So there was some yield loss there with making the hay early. But we kind of had to before the weevil destroyed any more of the alfalfa. So this year we're going to spray it for bugs so that we don't have that much damage. And we're going to wait as long as we can to mow this, because I want to try to get, one, a long lasting stand, and I don't want to cut it too early, because if you cut stands too early, you can hurt the longevity of the stand. So I want to let it grow late, and I want it to mature, and it's first cutting, so it normally happens, and I want to get yield out of it. Last year I got like 336 bales on first cutting, and second and third cutting both got over 500 bales. That's not normally how it's supposed to go, but that's how it went. So try a little bit different this year. Hopefully we can get some a little bit better results. today's Thursday. It kind of feels like a Monday, but it also feels like a Thursday. So I got this tie rod torched off. We're gonna get a new one made here. As you can see, it's bent here. This bent, what, 2 years ago? Bent it back into place, and then last summer, backing it up a hill, it bent again. So this spot is just, it's weak, and it needs to be new. As you can see, it's just bent in multiple places. So it comes off of this wagon here. This is our big wagon, the biggest wagon we have. It's kind of a rough looking wagon, but it's still important because it's the biggest wagon we have. We did not even use this at all last year after first cutting because it broke. We managed to do second, third, and fourth cuttings with this wagon and that wagon over there. So getting this one is really crucial this year with the amount of hay that we're doing. That's why we're getting this tie rod made. So I'm gonna run to the shop here today to get that fixed. In the process of getting that torched off, I was driving the AGCO down to the shop. I had the torch in the bucket, and I'm driving back down the shop and it started sputtering on me again. Last year during first cutting, this thing was doing that. It broke because it was sputtering on me. Turned out it was a clogged fuel line, I believe, from the tank to the filter. And we got it blown out, and they'd recommend that we get the tank cleaned as well. Well, we never got around to doing that, kind of just because we were trying to cut some costs, and we just needed to get it back in working condition. So we blew the line out and ran perfectly fine for us all summer and even all winter. And now it's acting up on us again. So I believe the line is clogged again, and we got to get this tank cleaned. Well, I tried to be brave and go do some work with the tractor, and now I'm limping at home. Oh boy, oh boy, oh no, oh no. She does not sound healthy at all. I barely made it in my driveway. So what's happening here is the line from the tank to the fuel bowl is clogged, so it can't keep that bowl full. It's not sending enough fuel through the bowl to the filter to the engine fast enough because of the clog. So what happens when I'm running this thing under a load, it's burning more fuel, but it can't keep that bowl full enough, fast enough. So that's what happens. And yeah, right now it's not full. See how it's draining like that? Now it'll fill up here in a second. Like that. That's what the problem was last time. I'm pretty sure that's still the problem this time. It sounds the same. It's got the same symptoms. Let it sit here and idle. It runs fine. But I went down the road to clear out a path to one of my fields, and it ran fine for an hour, and then it kind of started sputtering real bad, and I was like, yeah, I should probably head home. And I started coming down the road, and it got bad. I was like doing 1 mile an hour down the road just to keep that thing going. See how she runs. So now it's running fine. Yeah, never mind. It's struggling. Whatever clog is in that line, it's getting worse. But we're gonna get this thing down in the barn, we're gonna park it, and we're not gonna worry about it until the mechanic can get to it.